All right, let's get right into it. We all know just how critical climate change education is. But the real question is, how do we get it out of the special project box and weave it into the very fabric of our schools? Today, we're going to walk through a roadmap for doing just that, for creating a climate curriculum that's truly rigorous and honestly, transformative.
So, let's start with a tough question, but it's one we have to ask. Are our best efforts, well, are they falling short? We all have the desire to get this right, but are we actually preparing students for the world they're going to inherit, or are we just missing the mark?
And this right here is what you could call the good intentions trap. You know, eco weeks, recycling drives, they're awesome starting points for sure. But the problem is they often stay on the surface. They create a big burst of energy, which is great, but they don't build that deep, foundational knowledge that students really need.
So that brings us to the first huge shift in thinking. We need to move climate education from being a bolt-on topic, an extra thing to do, to being something that's woven in to everything. It's not just another subject. It's a lens for understanding the entire world. It's a true world discipline.
Now, a really powerful way to do this with a concept called idea threads. Think of it like this. These are core climate ideas that we intentionally weave through a student's entire journey, from their first year to their last. So instead of just repeating the same basics over and over again, the concept actually gets deeper and more complex as they grow. So what does that actually look like? Well, in geography, your idea thread might be interconnection, exploring how one decision right here can impact a global system over there. In history, you could follow the thread of adaptation, looking at how past civilizations have dealt with huge environmental changes. You see, this makes learning cumulative, not just repetitive.
Okay. The next absolutely crucial point is moving past just talking about the symptoms. It is one thing to teach that sea levels are rising. It's a whole other thing to teach why they are rising, by really digging into the greenhouse effect and the carbon cycle. The goal here is to get from simple description to deep causal explanation.
And look, that shift, it puts a lot of pressure on our teachers. To really teach the mechanics behind it all, staff need what we can call conceptual clarity. And that means we have to support them with top-notch, verified resources and concept primers that give them the confidence to tackle those really tough, complex questions from students.
This brings us perfectly to our second major shift, and this one is all about pedagogy. It's about changing the narrative, moving away from a story of doom and gloom and toward one that actually builds agency and a sense of empowerment.
You know, there's a real psychological trap we need to avoid. If every single lesson is about loss and damage and just how bad things are, well, you can see why students would feel defeated before they even start, right? It can completely shut down their motivation and their desire to engage.
The way out of that trap is a really powerful tool called futures thinking. Instead of only looking backward at the damage, we challenge students to look forward. We get them to use real data to evaluate different strategies, and we get them to focus on what is plausible and actually possible. This is how we build what you could call realistic agency.
Okay, so we've woven climate concepts into the curriculum and we've shifted how we teach to build agency. The third piece of this puzzle is making sure the entire school is walking the talk. The school's culture absolutely has to align with what's being taught in the classroom.
Because if they don't align, we get something called cultural drift. This is when the school's hidden curriculum, its daily operations, its habits, the way it runs, sends a message that totally contradicts the lessons being taught.
And I'm sure you can think of some classic examples, right? A powerful lesson on food security feels, well, pretty hollow if the school kitchen is throwing out tons of food every day. Or a class on resource management just doesn't hit home if the school's own energy bill is through the roof. These contradictions can undermine the whole thing.
So what's the solution? We have to transform the school site into a living lab. And when you do that, suddenly the building, the grounds, the cafeteria, they're not just facilities anymore. They become active parts of the learning experience, demonstrating the very values we're trying to teach. Now, I know what you might be thinking. This all sounds like a massive undertaking, and you're not wrong, it is. But here's the good news. It doesn't have to happen all at once. Building this kind of program is a multi-year journey, and you can break it down into a totally realistic, phased plan. It all starts in year 1 with the diagnostic phase, basically auditing what you're already doing. Then year 2 is all about implementation, trying out some new interdepartmental units, getting staff the training they need. And then year 3 is for review, evaluating what actually worked and refining the whole process based on real-world feedback.
So, after all that, where in the world do you begin? Well, the best part is that the first step isn't some huge, intimidating project. It's actually really simple and accessible.
It's this. Just gather a small, passionate group of staff and students, your climate ambassadors, and then simply start by auditing where climate is already hiding in your current curriculum. You'll be surprised what you find. That simple audit is the foundation for everything else that comes next.
So as you start that conversation, let me leave you with a few key questions to think about. First, take a really hard look at your resources. Are they all about the doom narrative, or are they balanced with real solutions and ideas for adaptation?
And also think about the emotional impact. How are you actively showing students that their collective actions, their future career choices, their big ideas, that all of it truly, genuinely matters? And finally, here's a provocative thought to leave you with. Are your most passionate students, your climate ambassadors, just running bake sales and after-school clubs? Or are they actually at the table, helping to shape the curriculum itself? Because giving them that voice, that might just be the most powerful step you can take.